Welcome to the Football Retro Podcast.
The word welcome, I guess, is stretching it a little when you're an Australian in a place like this today.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Football Retro Podcast. Hi, I'm your host Johnny, and today I'm joined by Fatty and Adasi. How you doing, guys?
Hey Johnny, good to be back. Special episode today, number 20. I'm excited.
Yeah, milestone, 20 episodes already. Time flies when you're having fun. Looking forward to today's episode.
Yeah, it's a big one. Before we get started, Fatty, can you say I'm a minimal word?
It took you a while. I didn't think you'd go
Come
through with
on,
it.
man.
I didn't think you'd go through with it, to be honest, because you dawdled and you hesitated, and we mentioned it last episode as well, and I said, throw up a vote. We're talking about getting a Maradona tattoo. But, yes, you did finally stick to it. I think peer pressure finally got to you.
No, it was just a matter of booking it and getting shit sorted, but...
That's a cop-out response. I think it was a matter of peer pressure.
Oh, he did it.
Anyways, it's done.
It's the fans that made you do it.
So what is it? Explain it in your descriptive language.
From what I saw, it looks like a bit of a scribble, looks like a heartbeat or some shit. Was it the Maradona's final heartbeat or something before he died?
No, it would have been a flatline.
From what I can tell, Maradona's signature with the number 10. Did I see an infinity there? I couldn't really
No,
tell.
it was just when he used to sign, it was a signature. He used to write Diego and number 10 in brackets.
It's on the outside of your ankle, so
And it was my left.
left foot. Okay.
I'm right-footed, but his
Yeah,
left.
very,
because-
very symbolic.
Fitting.
Just so no one thinks you put it on your balls or something.
Fitting.
Nah, if it wasn't my balls, it'd be a little bit different. I wouldn't be showing you, I think.
No, but finally, I'm sure the listeners want to see that, so throw it up on Football Retro Instagram.
It'll be up. It'll be up during the week. For those that don't believe me, or just so I can show that I'm a minimal word to everyone that's listening out there.
A man who caves into peer pressure, you mean?
You can say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's introduce our special guest today, all the way from England. So we have with us Neil, the real deal, Robson.
Is that his middle name?
That's his boxing name.
Oh.
How you going, Neil?
G'day boys, good to be here. Good, hopefully we can educate you on the greatest team in the world.
So which
Yeah,
team are we
next time.
talking about today?
Manchester United, my friend.
We'll be covering Man United's greatest 11 of all time by the man himself, big Man United fan. So tell us a little bit about what part of England you're from, how long you've been here for.
Surely he's got to be from Manchester, otherwise it defeats the purpose.
Oh, controversy already.
Grandparents were from Salford, my friend, in
Okay.
the Manchester
There we
area.
go.
So
There we go.
There's the connection.
lifelong Manchester United fan as a descendant from there, but lived in the Midlands, so I had to travel sort of 4 hours round trip to every home game. Had a season ticket through pretty much all of the 90s.
Wow. Before the Indians came in with season tickets.
Exactly.
Those guys, you're referring to those guys behind the bench, right?
They're always there.
I couldn't afford season tickets right in that spot.
How expensive? I
the
thought
most
so. I thought,
expensive one
geez, these guys are
in the
fucking-
ground.
Behind the away bench, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fan for obviously over 40 years without wanting to give my age away exactly. But we've got a good mixture of players, modern and going back through the years. So.
Without giving your age away, did you help in defeating Hitler?
No comment.
So just to set the scene a little bit here, we got Neil wearing his Man United jersey with a scarf, and on the other side of the table,
Yeah, but what year is that jersey? That's more modern, right?
well, it's Adidas, it's Chevrolet, so...
Yeah, 2012? No, 15,
No.
16?
No, Adidas came into...
It's only 3 years old, this one.
Yeah,
Okay, I said
Adidas
15,
came in.
16, I was close. 4 years, 5 years, okay.
Yeah.
And a
I
scarf as
remember
well.
that shit. Yeah, it's got the tablecloth scarf.
The scarf was actually from the Easter show in one of those, you
Oh, so it's not even real.
25
It's not even a
25
real
bucks
one.
and you get a flag
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
a sweatband or something like that. you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
$20 show bag from the Easter
Exactly. I think they were 30. I think they're the most expensive
The
ones.
Man U
I
Arsenal
think the
rivalry.
Arsenal ones were about 10 bucks.
That's
I
too
think.
much for that tablecloth anyway. You get them from Kmart, $10.
On the other side of the table, we've got Fatty wearing... What's he wearing at Darcy?
The 90s Arsenal jersey with the JVC sponsor.
That's
And the old emblem.
a 98 jersey before they changed
Yeah.
to the new emblem in the
Yeah.
early 2000s.
I look at that, I think of Ian Wright, I think, or Bergkamp.
That was the end of Ian Wright.
Yeah.
This is definitely a
Yeah.
Bergkamp jersey
Yeah.
with the Bergkamp 10 on the back.
And that's what he's got on the back.
Yeah. Bergkamp's my idol if you didn't know. Over
Yeah,
the
I
last 20 episodes whenever it's mentioned.
Do you have fear of flying like him?
No, I don't have a fear of flying, actually. I don't have a fear of flying.
Sorry about that. He's a little bit upset that Oliver Giroud has equalled Bergkamp's goal tally in the Premier League.
I don't understand the comparison. What are you trying to say? Are they equivalent? Like, are you trying to say that he's a player that's of equal stature? Or what?
Not at all. I'm just throwing out a stat.
Okay, fair enough.
A random stat that's
It's
what
like
you might enjoy.
Like I said before, someone mentioned, Maradona's not the greatest because Zlatan Ibrahimovic has got more personal accolades than him, so he should be considered the greatest player of all time. So, if that's the kind of comparisons we're making, let's do it.
No, it's not comparison. Like I said before, Keylor Navas is not better than Buffon, is he? And he's won more Champions Leagues.
It's all relative, mate. I think it's bullshit.
Fair. Why don't we jump straight into our topic for the night, which is Man United's greatest 11. There's a lot of players to go through, a lot of decades. Before we get started on the team, Neil, what kind of criteria did you use to pick your players and pick the lineup?
Look, I didn't follow a specific set criteria for every position. Obviously, longevity, amount of trophies that they've won for Manchester United, but also the impact that they would have had on the team at that time that they played, and also, how endeared they were to the fans around that time as well. So, a combination of many things. It doesn't apply to every player. Some have gone purely on the weight of statistics, whereas others would have had a shorter time at the club, but a significant impact. So, a bit of a mixture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In the Real Madrid episode, I think there was a lot about that. How long were they at the club?
Their contribution
to culture.
And how they did themselves to the fans, I think.
Trophies as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's also going to be part of it's going to be your personal preference, or if you've got a certain attachment to a player or a style that you liked, that someone may not agree with that selection, but it happens with everyone, right? With the teams that you support, you've got a certain love for a player that others may not believe would be worthy to be mentioned in the greatest 11. Or
Yeah, I'd agree with that to a certain extent, but I did try and avoid that. I tried to be as objective as possible when I'm picking
bit of fancy.
my greatest 11. For instance, two of my absolute all-time favourite Man United players don't actually make it into my 11.
Is that Jemba Jemba?
What's the other one? The World Cup winner, Kleberson.
No, they definitely didn't get consideration, and neither did the six Argentinian players that
Here we go.
represented the mighty shirt over the years.
Are we going straight into that?
Here you go, Johnny. Johnny is sucking you in now.
He messaged me today this afternoon saying, there's been 6 Man United players, 6 Argentinian players to play for Man United. I picked 5 and took me about 20 minutes to pick Di Maria. I had forgotten about Di Maria.
Everyone forgot about he went there. Jeez, what a bust that was.
So
they weren't even close to the bench or even the reserves, I'm afraid, the 6 Argentinians.
Well, there's one that I'm going to bring up later on.
Ooh.
That was a crazy Van Gaal era. He was loony.
And I'm sure you've got our coaches as well in mind, so we'll go to that a bit later.
Yeah, sure.
Let's start off with the goalkeeper. I think there are two to three obvious choices. There's one that obviously stands out.
There is one that stands out, and there's probably no great surprise that Peter Schmeichel is my number one. 8 years at the club, 15 trophies in total, £500,000 he bought him for from Bromby back in '91.
Bargain.
Still, Fergie to this day would still say it was his best buy of all time.
So he was bought before. So he was a Man United when he won the Euros with Denmark.
That's right. Yes, just signed the year before in '91. Yes,
Basically an unknown.
Yep.
That's right. Yes, he wasn't known very well outside of Denmark at that time, and obviously, as I said, to be bought for $500,000, come over, no one had ever heard of him, and to have had the career that he had after that, and just to be the imposing figure that he was between the sticks, true legend of the club. He holds a few records as well. Most clean sheets in Premier League history. Actually kept a clean sheet in 45% of the games.
It's a great
that
strike.
he's played,
It's a great rate there.
How did you feel seeing him in a Manchester City jersey?
I didn't mind really. It was one of those things where we'd got the best years out of him, without a doubt. Do you know what I mean? He'd done everything for the club that he could have ever done, and he was obviously right at the tail end of his career then. So they could have the old man in the sticks.
Before 2010, was it a big issue if someone went from Man United to Man City, considering that Man City was such a smaller club?
Oh, look, it's always been an issue, irrespective of the time that it happened. I remember the great Dennis Law ended up at Man City, and he's been one of the great legends of Manchester United through their history. And to see him at the back end of his career donning a sky blue jersey was unthinkable at one time. So, it doesn't matter what era you're talking about. It's never something that's particularly smiled upon when you see it.
So, Van der Sar and De Gea, where do they come in the picture? How close were they to...
Before you move on, sorry, I just wanted to ask a question, just about Schmeichel specifically. Does it, for me personally anyway, I feel like it leaves a bit of a sour taste or sort of tarnishes the legacy a little bit when you end up at your rivals, even if it's after your best years. I don't know. When I saw Schmeichel go to City, I was like, really? And I'm not a United fan, but I respect what he did at Man United. For me to see him going to City, I understand professional players try and suck out as much as possible from their careers because it's only a limited time, so I get that. But I don't know if you like to see some of your legends move and play at rivals or play against the same team.
I certainly didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, but it didn't bother me. It would bother me more if a player would have left at his prime and at his best years at one of the arch rivals.
And directly, because he went to Sporting Lisbon,
that's
I think.
He did a few clubs.
Something like Tevez did, for example.
Yeah. That's right. So, if you feel like you've got the best years out of any player, and they're just at the tail end of their career, you never like to see it. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, you don't lose too much sleep.
I wonder how Liverpool fans felt about Owen going to United.
Interesting. I don't know, because as we discussed before we started the podcast, Owen had a bit of a trek around other clubs, and he did Real Madrid and he did Newcastle and whatnot, and he was a bit of a journeyman there. He couldn't really find his feet, and he only came to United as a bit of a stopgap, as we mentioned, just to fill in, because I think they were short or they needed just some additional backup on strikers. So I'm not too sure if they look at it the same way that Neil's saying, as in it's not they got the best out of him pretty much, because he really didn't do much at United, bar the occasional that winner against City, that 4-3. Right. I don't really recall anything notable from him.
No, that was pretty much his only.
That's what everyone remembers him. His time at Man United for, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
And from what I read, he was on a productive contract, so he only got paid according to games he played, according to goals, assists, and stuff like that.
That would have been pretty productive. That 4-3 in Fergie time.
Manchester
Derby. Definitely paid his wages that week. That's for sure.
Yeah. So Van der Sar and De Gea.
Look, De Gea actually didn't come into my thoughts at all. I find it difficult when a player's only pretty much halfway through his career to really seriously contemplate them in an all-time 11. Certainly in his first years with Man United, he was highly regarded and rated as one of the top 2 or 3 in the world, but I don't think he's carrying that status at the moment. And but as Van der Sar, unfortunately, sort of didn't have the time at the club to really push Schmeichel as hard as he might have done if he'd have had the same time at the club as Schmeichel did. But certainly a clear second for me was Edwin van der Sar.
I just want to say thanks to the faulty fax machine for not giving us De Gea. And you guys would have got Navas the other way. He's on deadline day too.
That's right.
And Navas went on to win 3 Champions Leagues for us. So.
It's interesting. I know it's different eras in Man United history, but there's the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award. You know about that award?
Yes.
So it's voted by the fans and the members.
That's right.
So De Gea won it 4 times since 2014.
Yep. I think that was more of a reflection of how poor the outfield team was.
Absolutely.
Your goalkeeper's winning it year in, year out.
Yeah.
Is a true reflection of De Gea's contribution.
He won it 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But do you feel like with the goalkeeper position that since Schmeichel left that they've missed that sort of leadership at the back. You know, every time I'd see, when I first started watching Manchester United in the 90s, and he was at the back shouting, screaming at his teammates, and he got in the face of Jaap Stam a few times.
That's right. They would have open arguments on the pitch in the middle of games. You know, and they would just take it. They would just have it out right there and then in the box.
Yeah.
So where does Mark Bosnich fit in all this?
No.
I was going to say
Bozza didn't quite make the shortlist, unfortunately.
So he was just short off the line, you'll say?
I recall. You got a touch there. Our most notable thing I remember of Bosnich was it the Champions Cup against Palmeiras? What was it? Cup Winners' Cup.
Club
World Cup, sorry, yeah.
Or the
99?
Intercontinental Cup back then.
Yeah. 99 against Palmeiras.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't remember much of him after that.
But then you guys bought Barthez after.
Fabian Barthez, yes, very hit and miss. Fabian,
that game against Deportivo. And
Arsenal had their greatest games against Fabian Barthez. Let's just say that.
Henri's goal. Yeah.
Yes.
So just to put an end on the goalkeeper situation.
No, there's a few more goalkeepers I'd like to mention here.
Oh, there's one I have.
They've got Roy Carroll. What about Massimo Taibbi?
Through the legs.
Wasn't Carroll the bloke that grabbed the ball from inside the goal?
And they didn't count it.
They've had a few comical keepers. They've probably had the greatest keeper of all time in Premier League history with Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah.
And they've had some of the worst of all time. You know, we mentioned Taibbi, Roy Carroll. I don't know what.
Taibbi, I think, is top of that list. I would imagine.
Where did Taibbi come from? It sounds like Ferguson got duped with that sign.
Someone
told him he was good. And
Torino or something.
Torino,
and then he had a good reputation.
He had an excellent reputation.
And then that goal.
Was that goal against Southampton?
Yeah, through his legs.
Was that Letitia or someone else? I don't recall.
Someone.
I can't remember.
It was a long range shot
and that's the end of his career.
Somehow
But even Schmeichel's career could have taken a very different turn. You know, he's only 2 or 3 years into his tenure at Manchester United, and they were 3-0 up at Liverpool and ended up drawing the game 3-3.
Yes.
And Ferguson blamed Schmeichel.
I remember that.
Quite publicly, and they had a very public row in the change rooms in front of the whole squad. And Ferguson actually sacked Schmeichel there and then, and stormed out the dressing room. And about an hour later, Schmeichel was apologising to the whole squad for his role. And Ferguson wasn't in the changing rooms, but was next door and actually overheard the apology to the squad. And it was that apology that saved his career at Man United. So,
wow.
So all the achievements that he's had, or most of them, wouldn't have happened. But for the apology after a 3-3 draw at Liverpool in '94.
That's why it's a bit of a surprise for him not to win this Fens Player Award. I know it's a different team. Kenton had won it twice in the 90s, Beckham, Giggs. But in '95, a little-known player from Russia won it. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Who is it?
Neil.
Go on.
Andrei Conchelskis.
Who's that? I haven't...
He was a.
I thought you said little-known player.
Forgive my ignorance.
No, he was actually a decent winger.
He was a brilliant right winger.
Right winger, yeah.
I remember Conchelskis.
Yeah. Absolute speed to burn. One of the fastest players in the Premier League history.
So he won Fans Play in 94-95 season.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Had a rocket right foot. Andrei Conchelskis.
All right, moving on from Schmeichel, who's the second best goalkeeper in the 90s.
Oh dear.
I had to throw that in.
Of course, yeah.
Only one keeper won. Best goalkeeper of the 3s in the 90s.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We know.
Right back. Is there any argument at all?
You tell me.
I'd be curious to hear your input on this one.
For a start off, I haven't gone for a back four. I'm only playing 3 at the back.
3 at the
Here
back.
we go.
Here we go.
Ferguson wouldn't like that.
I know he wouldn't like it.
Are you Ferguson or Bielsa?
My need to cram 5 in midfield led me to a formation change. So I'm actually sort of doing either a 3-1-4-2 or a 3-5-2 formation. So only 3 at the back, I'm afraid.
Fergie would be furiously chewing that gum.
How un-Man United
hair-dry treatment.
I don't know. Ollie's been playing it lately in Europe, not with much success. But,
how's that going for you?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Ollie's at the wheel.
All right.
So the right side of my 3 is Gary Neville.
Yep.
Surely, I don't think anyone had thought of anybody else then. I mean, you've had a fair few players play over that position and fill-ins and, try and cover that role.
There weren't many standout names for the right side.
Sorry, tell me one player that would challenge Gary Neville's right back
No,
spot.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
But who comes to mind?
no, nobody. None that I can think of.
Not even for me. There wasn't even many for me. I did quite a bit of research and I dug through the archives, and there just really isn't. There's just been some very standard, mundane right backs over the years.
Antonio
for
Valencia.
United.
Valencia was...
Yeah,
More of a
but
wing
again,
back, wing back,
but
yeah.
again,
Wing back,
when
yeah.
you're talking about all-time 11s,
Yeah.
you're never going to push his way.
Was Luke
into
Shaw
the
left
team.
or right?
Left back, Luke Shaw. But then again, I wouldn't.
He wouldn't tie. He wouldn't tie. Gary
Dennis
Neville's
Irwin
shoes.
made his career at left back, but he was a right-sided player and would fill in on occasions at right back if Neville was injured, for instance.
Yeah.
He could play right back, and John O'Shea, obviously, we used to do the same. But no, there wasn't really any serious contenders when I look back through the years to Gary Neville. Over 600 games, 20 trophies,
Leadership skills.
5 years as captain of the club.
There's a reason why Ferguson will put players as a captain. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He won't give a player the captain's armband if he didn't believe he had those qualities. And
That's right.
for Ferguson to look at him in that
Class of
says a
'92
lot
as well.
about him.
That's right, the famous
of
class of '92, and was the born leader out of that class of '92 as well. He was the one that was always, rallying the team, and was maturity above his years when he came into the side. Also, a very good crosser of the ball. Everyone talks about his partnership and his combination with Beckham over the years down the right hand side, but when they double team Beckham, they'd have no hesitation in giving it to Neville, and Neville would put in some very, really penetrating crosses, and obviously they were a great combo down the right for many years.
So he's better than his brother.
He is better.
I think that goes without saying.
One brother better than the other.
That's like your brother better than you, Johnny.
100%.
The younger one, Leo, relax.
All right. So that's the right back or the right centre back for you sorted.
Yep. Okay.
Rio?
No,
Rio.
no,
Oh,
Rio,
no.
I'm afraid.
Blasphemy.
Oh wow.
Johnny.
No Rio.
Sorry for jumping ahead.
Big Yap Stam
I don't disagree with that.
is the rock in the centre of the defence. Only 4 seasons at United, and only 127 games for the club. But a better centre half I've never seen in my time, and absolutely had it all. Yap Stam.
Where did he go after?
Lazio,
Yeah.
sold him to Lazio. Actually sold him on. They bought him from PSV for 11 million and sold him to Lazio for 16 million after 4 seasons.
16?
But 16, yeah, 1-6.
I think there was a dispute between Yap Stam and Ferguson.
Huge controversy.
And then,
on his departure. They'd also had a few personal heated conversations.
Personal beef.
Yeah, personal beef.
That's
again.
proper personal beef. My one's a joke.
And it's still a bit of a grey area as to the exact reason. He did fail a drug test as soon as he pretty much had signed for Lazio.
Yeah.
And ended up being banned for 8 months. And there's a theory that they may have sold him because they knew that maybe he'd failed a drug test for Man United and they just got him out. That's just one theory. Also, he wrote an autobiography where he sort of slagged off Fergie for a few of his decisions regarding the team, and Fergie obviously wouldn't have taken very nicely to that when he'd read it. So
it's massive for you to include him in the centre back.
I'm telling you now, this guy, he would have been. Well, he is. He's played 4 seasons, and I still class him as a legend.
Can I just chime in here, and I'll just say quickly, I totally agree with Yap Stam. There are other players that you can mention, the Ferdinands, the Vidiches, these players that sort of took the captain's armband and did what they needed to as well. But Yap Stam had something different about him. He had that aggression that you needed. He was a centre-back that you would have loved to have in his prime in your team, without a doubt. The Ferdinands and the Vidiches and those sorts of players, yes, they're more ball players. Yap Stam wasn't a ball player. Yap Stam was there to do the job that he needed to do.
Old
No
school kind of
fuss,
defender.
no bullshitting. Yeah, didn't fuck around. But that's exactly what you wanted, and I think that's why you would have chosen.
That's
him,
what
and
I want
agree.
from my defenders.
Yeah,
I want
absolutely.
my defenders to defend first, and worry about spraying, pinging 60-yard balls. That's nice if you've got that up your sleeve. But for me, first and foremost, You're there to defend.
And I remember
he could play football. He had talent. He could play a bit of football, but his speed, his power, his positioning,
tackling was really good too.
his dominance.
Yeah.
And
was
another
the key
leader
factor.
on the field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
But
mean-
more by his actions, I think, rather than verbally. He was just a guy that would just sort of turn around and say, "Look, guys, get
No
behind
nonsense.
me, follow me,
No nonsense.
I'll show
defending.
you the way."
And what an ugly head. All right,
I've got a good stat though. I've got a good stat on this one as well, just for you, Johnny.
tell me.
In the 4 seasons that he played, of all the games he started in the Premier League in 4 seasons, they only lost 5 games in 4 seasons.
Wow.
That's
games
massive.
That's what you call rock
Games
solid.
that he started.
And I remember him and Schmeichel at it a few times, like I said before.
Exactly right, because they demanded,
Yeah.
because they set such high standards.
That's right.
That
The
shows
demand
you.
was there.
That shows you the kind of importance or the important role he played in that team. I recall watching late 90s, early 2000s United. When Upstam was in the team, you thought, "Shit, okay, it's different."
Yeah.
So when one of them was out, and you think, "Okay, you've got a chance."
Yeah.
Tommy, just drop the name and we'll move on. Who was his best partner at centre back?
Good question.
Well, his most famous partner at the time, I suppose, was Ronnie Johnson. But
Yeah.
again, you talk about Ferdinand and Vidic. You've mentioned them. Great pairing at the back for United. Okay, Pallister and Bruce were a great pairing for United. Okay, those two Steve Bruce would be very unlucky not to get into this team.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
true leader and the first captain of the when they won the Premier League and the first title for 26 years. But Stam, for me, dominated the defence single-handedly, whereas all those other players we've mentioned did it as a combination, as a pair.
Supporting cast.
Yeah.
Okay, third centre back.
Left-sided
Who's going to
defender.
go with you? 100%. If you don't say this, then you're not a true United
No,
fan.
you won't get this.
I'll
You
tell
won't
you
get
what,
this.
Surely.
I'll be surprised if anybody at this table's even
No.
heard of him.
Oh, really?
I don't even have him on my
Oh,
paper.
wow. Okay.
Okay, so
There
I've
we
gone
go.
for Tony Dunn.
No.
Okay,
Definitely
see?
not.
There we
Not-
go.
Fatty,
The table.
there you go.
Everyone's
Oh,
looking
look
at. Everyone's looking quizzically at
Fatty,
each other.
Fatty,
Definitely
You
not.
got me there.
it sounds like you're done.
Johnny.
So Tony Dunn was actually a very diminutive player, 5'6", but had one of the sweetest left foots in the game. They signed him from Shelbourne for £6,000 back in the day.
So sorry, what era are we talking about?
So 60s, so 63 to 73. So he was a part of the European Cup winning team in '68
Okay.
when Man United became the first English team to win the European Cup. I'm sure you're
Yeah,
aware
that's
of that.
right. They would have been.
I'm like I said that softly.
So he was part of that. He was part of the Busby Babes through those glory years of the late 60s. Won multiple trophies and played over 500 games, but was considered to be one of, if not the best left backs around in the world at that time, and yet no
Good.
one's ever heard of him.
13 years at the club. It's a long time.
13 years, over 500 games, European Cup, league titles.
I'm just amazed. After I've looked at a lot of different teams, I've done a lot of research, even my personal knowledge. I'm just amazed that Ferdinand missed out on the team, and Steve Bruce obviously, but Ferdinand's a bit.
I'm not surprised about Ferdinand, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Ferdinand was a good all-round footballer in terms of complete, can be a centre-back, as a ball player, positioning-wise, whatnot, but he wasn't a type of player who threw his body on the line and was all in or nothing for the team. I just didn't feel that from him. So I'm not too surprised that he didn't include him. Steve Bruce, I totally understand.
Steve
why you would
Bruce.
say that.
I've got Vidic and Pallister as well.
Yeah.
As a left back, I thought Dennis Irwin had it for sure.
Yeah, I would have
That's it.
put him in
That's
there.
And he was a very close second, Dennis Irwin. Obviously, stats-wise, trophies-wise, longevity-wise, consistency. Could play both right and left.
He's one that
Was
Fergie said.
absolutely knocking the door. This was one of the big toss-ups for me.
He's one of the ones that Fergie said was a bargain for him.
Of course,
Dennis
sold him from
Irwin.
Oldham for
Yeah.
peanuts back in the day, and got umpteen years of amazing service out of him. Never let them down. Brilliant free kick, brilliant dead ball specialist for a fullback as well.
Do you think Vidic would have been a big name in United without Ferdinand next to him? I mean, he's an amazing player.
You see, you question Ferdinand not being in the team. Vidic would have been in ahead of Ferdinand in
Well,
my
Vidic,
team
you
if
know,
I'd have gone for a pairing.
If we're talking about, I'm going back to this because I think fans' votes are important.
Yeah.
I think what fans think are different to journalists, to coaches. So Vidic did win the Players' Members' Choice in 2009. Only one left back won it. Do you know who it is? If I'm asking, who's going to be?
Oh, come on, it's got to be.
Irwin.
No.
If he's asking,
If I'm
who's it
asking.
gonna be?
Oh, Heinze.
Heinze.
Gabriel Heinze.
Of course.
What
And he
year
was
was
one
that?
of my favourites. He was
What year was
absolutely one of
that?
my favourites.
05.
He was a hard-nosed player.
okay.
Yeah, I remember.
Of all the hopeless Argentinian
Well,
players that have worn the mighty jumper over the years, he was absolutely my favourite. He'd probably be the only one that could hold his head up high.
What about the
At
other
Old
left back
Trafford.
I was thinking about, Patrice Evra?
Patrice Evra,
Yeah.
fine player, but to me,
No, he wouldn't.
it was a two-horse race for the left
Yeah.
side, and it was between Tony Dunn
Yeah.
and Dennis Irwin, and it could have been either, if I'm fair.
All right,
but Tony Dunn got them
I'm done with this topic.
Oh, Johnny, fucking hell.
He had to put that in again.
because he's never heard of him. Because he's never heard of him.
Let's move on to your midfield.
All right. So
This is where the fun part is, right?
This is actually
You're
a lot of names in this one.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of names here,
A lot of-
and I understand why you went with 5 in the middle.
Yep.
Give me your defensive mid.
Defensive mid, Duncan Edwards. Now, even you would have heard of Duncan Edwards, surely, Johnny.
He's
The
not on my
story.
list.
Not on your list.
Ooh.
You see. All right. So you take Roy Keane, right, and this would have been the Duncan Edwards of the year, but about Roy Keane on steroids. Okay, Duncan Edwards.
Jesus.
Okay.
Definitely showing his age now. He didn't want to give it away, but
Rockets in both feet. Died at 21.
What?
But had already played 177 games for United.
Is this
that's-
part of the Munich disaster? or-
Yes. He survived the initial Munich air crash, but he died in a German hospital about 2 weeks after the crash. He was called a halfback. They were called halfbacks back in those days. They weren't defensive midfielders or anything like that. They were called a halfback.
Yeah.
Won 2 league titles, so no great stats. Obviously, dying at 21 years old, you're not going to have created great stats in the game, but was absolutely considered to be the premier midfielder in European football at that time. He was capped over 30 times for England, as I said, by the age of 21.
That's massive.
It was an absolute. Bobby Charlton has been quoted as saying that it was the greatest loss to football that he'd ever known in his entire life, of what he could have been. Famous managers of English managers over the years have said that had he have reached his prime, which he was obviously nowhere near at the age of 21, they think that he would have gone down along with Maradona.
Oh, right.
No. True story. Some very shrewd and wise
You've gone too far.
analysts. This kid was 21 years old and he was already one of the best midfielders in the world, and they reckon that he could have been absolutely anything. This guy.
They said the same thing about Robinho, and look at him, he's got to be in jail now.
Probably different lifestyles.
Shame.
Lifestyle choices would have been a little bit different.
I'm sure he didn't have the flashy lifestyle back then.
So here, I'm telling you now, this guy was the first name on my team sheet.
Wow, at 21.
That's a big.
That's how
that's a
well.
big, thing.
That's how renowned he is.
That's how.
At the club at Manchester United.
So you got Edwards holding the midfield. Who's around him? Give me your 2 centre mids.
Okay, so
Are we going with 5 in the middle? Or?
we're going with 5 in the middle.
Okay.
So 2 wide players. I'm guessing 2 wide players, 3 centre mids.
That's right. So
And 2
Edwards,
strikers.
Edwards is holding. My attacking midfielders, Sir Bobby Charlton.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know enough about Sir Bobby, but 17 years at the club, 758 games, 249 goals.
Is he a board member currently, or?
He's an ambassador still at the club, 80 odd years old, and he's still an ambassador at the club. Just one of the true greats of the last century football wise. I think he was ranked in the top 10 of all time players at the end of the century.
Look, obviously I never watched him play, but if he used to hold on to the ball like he used to hold on to his hair, he would have been a great player.
So back then, he won the Ballon d'Or in '66. He was also runner-up in '67 and '68.
World Cup winner.
World Cup winner. He was the captain when they won the European Cup. Multiple titles.
When you say World Cup winner,
Johnny's itching to mention.
Oh, here we go.
that's
Johnny's
loosely.
itching.
That's loosely.
And you know, I tell you what, he played 106 times for England, and he only got booked once. And guess which team he got booked?
Argentina?
Against? Argentina.
Wow.
So obviously a filthy diving I mean, you know, a squeaky clean record like that.
Wow.
106
It got
caps.
tarnished by- is that why they
106
had-
caps.
Is that where the rivalry
And that
started?
was in 66. That was in the 66 World Cup. when
Tarnished
they-
Wow.
his only record. Could be the only player to never
Exactly.
get
So
it.
despite the diving Argies, they still went on to win the World Cup. Obviously survived
The
the
crash.
Munich Air disaster. And when they won 10 years later, he actually didn't celebrate on the field with the team at all. He just went back to the changing rooms and just had some private thoughts about the guys that he'd lost 10 years earlier, and didn't even celebrate it with the team on
Wow.
the pitch. So
It's crazy.
says a lot about the man.
Another captain, another leader in the team.
Absolutely. Didn't get the captain's armband. But
We'll move on to
later.
that. All right.
Speaking of Sir Bobby, I'll just quickly mention here, I personally met Sir Bobby, and this is a funny story, you'll like this. So before my affiliation with Arsenal, and I'm talking 94 through to 98, when I was still young, 10, 11 years old, Sir Bobby visited our school overseas. We went to British schools, so it was part of the entourage that came to visit, and Sir Bobby came and held football clinics there
Which country?
in Saudi Arabia. So we went to British schools there, and so he came there, held some football clinics over a period of 2 weeks, and we played there and met him and got jerseys signed and whatnot. So I was a United fan for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow. Confession.
I never knew this. Stuff these.
That makes looking at that Arsenal
Wow.
shirt even worse now.
I knew you'd like that one. Yeah, so those early
Worse
years.
than Van
So
Persie.
the Eric Cantona years, I loved Cantona at the time, and Sir Bobby Charlton coming there. Obviously, I was a youngster. I didn't have a team, and straight away, you see a legend like that and a hero, and you know who he is, and you look him up and you understand what it's about. So that's what you support. So I supported that until Mr. Bergkamp came along and took me away from United.
Do you still have that jersey?
What?
The one that Bobby Charlton
No, I
signed?
don't have it.
Shame on you.
Wow.
I don't have it. As a
Shame
kid,
on you.
you didn't think whatever, and when we migrated here, obviously got lost. But yeah, I had a United jersey signed by Sir Bobby Charlton back in '95.
Do a world search on that.
Man United.
Unfortunately now,
family.
don't know where it is.
Interesting.
There you go. That's your fun fact for today that you didn't know about me.
Did not know that at all.
All right. So we've got Edwards holding. You've got Charlton next to him. He's on the other side of the midfield.
In an attacking midfielding role, we have your good mate Cristiano Ronaldo
In the middle of the park.
in the middle of the park. Yeah, I'm playing him behind the
No.
front two.
Wow, interesting for
Very
Ronaldo.
So he's playing a diamond three in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Two holding,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
giving him a
That's
bit more freedom.
Ronaldo
Ronaldo
roaming
behind-
through.
Behind the strikers.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
In his younger years,
When
I
you
think
hear who
that
the
suits
two
him.
wingers are, it's obvious that he wasn't going to play on either of the flanks.
Well, yeah.
Has he played in a role like that before?
Of course he has.
Yeah,
He has
plays
kind
all
of
the way-
run down.
he plays all across
Portugal,
the
he
front line
has.
throughout his career. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think more recently he was more as a striker, but prior to that, he always used to play behind, or used to play on the wing and come
I
in.
thought he went from winger to striker. I didn't know he played behind. I know he's very versatile. He's a machine. He's an athlete. But I don't think I've seen him constantly play behind the strikers.
I don't think you're meaning to play him as a 10
Like a
specifically.
playmaker.
No, not a 10. He's not a 10, but he could be part of a front three. So
Yeah.
he's basically...
Yeah, so I can see Charlton and Edwards playing side by side and Ronaldo in front of him behind the strikers
No.
in a free role.
In a free role, that's right, yes. I've got two roamers, and he's one of them. So licensed to do what he wants. I've got my holders in midfield. He's got license to roam free and
He's thought about it.
impact
Yeah.
the game wherever he feels.
I think, yeah, just great call. I mean, from where he started at Man U, and people thought he was a showboater, just all one-trick pony. But the way he just
Step
developed,
over,
the
step
way he
over,
developed
step
his game, the way he looked after himself, and the way and what he achieved in those 6 years was amazing, just incredible.
Well, recently Berbatov's come out By the way, he's not on your team, is he, Berbatov?
Absolutely not.
He's come out and said
I've got a soft spot for him though.
when he was at United, they used to go to parties, and obviously Cristiano was a big part of the parties. He was a fun person, but he's never seen Ronaldo consume alcohol.
That's right.
That's
Interesting.
Such a professional, and
Yeah.
I think because of his father passed away from alcoholism, and then he just said, no, I don't want to.
regardless,
Yeah.
I mean, as an athlete,
Yeah,
as a
I'm
professional,
not just saying that's
In
one of
that
the
environment,
that's one of the
yeah,
reasons.
A
yeah.
why
young
he's-
guy with a lot of money in his
Yeah.
pockets,
Yeah,
you know,
easy,
beautiful
easy.
looking ladies all over him. You know, it's true.
Even with his crooked teeth and his fucking pimply face back then at United.
and his
but-
blonde
and his
spaghetti
little
hair.
frosted
Spaghetti
tips.
hair.
Yeah.
But obviously, but a lot of player power had to do with bringing Ronaldo to Man United. They actually played against Sporting Lisbon in a pre-season tournament.
Yes, correct.
And pretty much some of the first team squad just went back into the changing rooms after
Yeah.
and told Fergie, "You have
You
to
gotta get
sign
him."
this kid.
Yeah.
You know, he is just like something we've not played against. You have to go and get him." And within days, they spent 12 million,
what
which was a
bargain.
record. Which was a
wow.
record for a teenager,
Yeah.
world record
And
for a
then,
teenager at that time.
What do those numbers mean now?
Exactly
Well,
right.
thank you
Nothing.
for giving him to us at Real Madrid when we
We had to pay
benefited
80 million.
Yeah,
for
world
him,
record
but,
at the time. Yeah,
I don't think I thank you. I think it was my receipt.
no refunds.
I've got to say, I hated Ronaldo at the United era from an Arsenal fan. He absolutely terrorised us. Whether it was at Highbury, whether it was at Old Trafford, whether it was in the Champions League.
That goal against Arsenal, that semi-final, that free kick, my goodness, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just-
There was a Champions League fixture where he absolutely battered us, and it was 2 goals in the space of 2 minutes. I don't recall what year it was. He absolutely tore us apart, and
It
I
was
just thought, I
semi-final.
fucking hate
Yeah.
this guy.
I think one of the best Cristiano goals I've seen was, I remember watching it live. It was against Portsmouth, a free kick.
Against
Oh.
David James, that top corner.
Yeah.
But that was like the perfect free kick. The
Yeah.
way he
Yeah.
hit it, he just went straight in the top corner.
Inch
There was
perfect.
no chance for anyone.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best free kicks I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
He hits them like that.
yeah.
That's
So-
the way he,
But obviously, there's nothing, you know, you probably won't know about him, so there's no point in really.
What a midfield.
Do you think it could have been different for him after the 2006 World Cup when you had that issue with Wayne Rooney in the after the quarter final? You know, when Wayne Rooney got sent off and Ronaldo wanted him to get. I asked the ref, where's the red card? And then they,
Yeah, but I mean, he still played until 2009
Yeah, like-
for United, so that,
but it's good how he put that behind him and
they
kinda,
did, that they managed just to, But I think he's had that maturity about him. We've just touched upon it before about the no drinking when he was a kid and in the big city and the bright lights and all the party scene around him. You know,
Yeah.
he had that maturity about him. I think from throughout his career. That he could get over things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wouldn't just be stubborn and let things fester like that. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
he won the Ballon d'Or at United. It was the first Ballon d'Or winner United had had since George Best in '68. So
Yeah.
wow.
you know,
30 years.
30,
40.
40,
yeah,
40,
40, over 40 years since we'd had a Ballon d'Or winner,
Wow.
and he brought the first one back to Old Trafford. So.
Yeah.
You know, nearly 300 games over 6 seasons, 118 goals, you know, and obviously rose up to be one of the greats of the modern era.
So before I throw any other names at you, I want to hear your wingers are.
Well, I'd be surprised if you were surprised by my 2 wingers.
Can I just throw one?
No, let him
Let
him talk.
No, in case it's a forward, I'll say you give it to me. Go.
Well, down the left-hand side, Ryan Giggs.
Yeah.
Obviously, just, you know, I could throw stats at you and we'd be here for another 2 hours about all the records that he's
All the
broken.
goals he scored, the wives he slept with, and
That's exactly right. Records in all different departments.
I was fucking Johnny. I expect always something like that. I'll just wait for the
That goal
punchline.
against Arsenal FA Cup '99.
Yeah, one of the most memorable goals.
Fucking shave your chest, mate. Running around with a carpet on his fucking
I
chest.
can remember the pub I was in. I can remember running round and screaming at the top of my voice. Probably smashed about 14 glasses on my way around the pub as it rocketed into the
which
roof.
town were you in?
I was in a little town called Bewdley, which is in the Midlands. You'd never have heard of that, but
Never heard of the Midlands.
it was certainly livened up in that pub when that rocketed into the roof of the net. Yeah, one of my great memories of all time watching football. So, but you know, as I said, you know, you could drone on about his stats. You know, 24 years at the club, first player to ever play in 22 successive seasons, scored in 21 successive seasons. He's broke so many records. 963 games.
Was he?
963.
Another
games.
captain, another leader.
Yeah, but again, not overly vocal.
Not of the same ilk.
But absolutely, people would look to him if the game was tight or it was a draw and it was 10 minutes to go or they needed something. He would play that you'd just look to. You'd always try and get him the ball because he's the most likely to do something.
Not sure if you know this, but it just came to mind. Is he the only player coach for Man United? Because he was a player coach for a while, wasn't he? For a few games.
Yeah,
I think it's after
David Moyes left.
Moyes left.
It was a little transition period.
For about 5 games, he
It
was
wasn't
player.
like 5 games, I don't think. I think it was like 3 games or something like that. But
Could you say he's the only one?
I
from
can't
memory?
think of another one.
From
I
memory?
can't think of another one off the top of my head.
I mean, I can't think of many worldwide. Anyways,
No.
Oh, you
Vialli
had
was.
Gianluca Vialli at Chelsea.
And Ruud Gullit was, I think, a little bit.
and recently I think Rooney was part of the Derby County
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
coaching staff as a player.
But not at United, no. I can't think of another one. And I'd be very surprised if there was another one.
It's not United doesn't come across as that kind of club that would have an issue with managerial, or not in recent memory anyway, in recent history, because of the stability and longevity you had with Sir Alex. So it doesn't make sense. I feel it devalues the club when that happens, because it's like, oh, fuck, we can't even get a proper manager in. We've got to
Can't get an assistant coach at least. Yeah.
So
Ryan Giggs, I don't think any questions asked. Definitely in the squad.
For the left.
I would have said so, but
I'd say so.
for you to say that, you've come up with some left of field names that we don't know of. So I'm sure you would have done your research before you put Ryan Giggs in there.
I think you'd have heard of everybody else.
Any last stats before we go to the right?
Just the most decorated player in English football history. No one's ever won more trophies in all competitions. So
It took a Welshman to do it.
exactly right. Should have been English.
Was that era of United that I'm talking about, the late 90s, early 2000s era? Was he one of the only players that outlasted, the Keanes, the Beckhams, the Scholeses?
Well, he was. He came first.
Was
he
he
came
the
in
la-
90. So the class of 92 is what we talk about famously with
Yeah.
Butt and Scholes and Beckham and the Nevilles and stuff
Yeah.
like that. He was actually already there. He joined in 1990.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was actually a year or two older than the class of 92 that came through and became so famous, and obviously outlasted all of them.
That's what
and
I
then
was asking,
another generation of footballers after as well.
Yeah. He was the longest serving out of that group.
That's right. 24 years
Wow.
in the first team.
Unheard of.
It is
This
unheard
modern-
of.
Right hand side.
Loyalty as well. The only thing he was loyal with.
That's right.
His football team.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Not his brother.
So George Best,
Yeah, that's
down
where
the
I was
right
going.
wing.
Yeah.
That's where I was
again, I don't think any great surprises.
I love Georgie Best. His
Probably-
life on and off the field.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I think
right.
you like him off the field, Johnny.
More than those
His
animals.
quotes.
Yeah.
One of the first original sort of rock stars of football in the UK. Without a doubt, the most gifted footballer that Great Britain ever produced, without a shadow of a doubt. Who knows what he could have been if he hadn't have just abused his body over so many years, but certainly made more than a mark in the time that he had. Still had 11 years at the club, nearly 500 games.
Yeah.
A lot of stories about him drinking before, half-time smoking,
That's that lifestyle, though.
Like-
Football was different back then.
Miss Universes.
Yeah.
Fuck, do you blame him?
That's right. It was a revolving door of Miss Universes, but formed the Holy Trinity, as it was called, with Best, Law and Charlton back in the famous days of the late 60s.
Did he? Was he the one that made the number 7 iconic?
He was at Old Trafford. Absolutely, he was the first, iconic number 7. Absolutely, there's been a few icons that have worn it since, but he was the one that made it famous, and because of him wearing it, the great players, some of the great players that have joined the club since, have always tried to get hold of that 7.
Like Di Maria and Alexis Sanchez.
I wasn't thinking about him so much. They weren't the first names on the tip of my tongue, but
Who's got it now? Cavani?
Well,
I forgot he went there.
Who's got number
The hell?
7 now? Is it Cavani?
That's a
or-
good question. Yeah, he's wearing-
Martial, wasn't it?
No, I don't think Martial is. No.
That's how prominent it is. There you go.
Martial was 9, I think.
It could
Yeah.
well be Cavani. But did you know he played 4 games, Georgie Best, for the Brisbane Lions?
Get
back
out
in
of here.
1984. He came out for a little spell at the end of his career.
What do you want to do? Just come shag some Aussie girls?
Probably, yeah. It's probably that, yeah. The only,
Oh, yeah.
nationality, the only nationality he hadn't shagged at that point, so he thought,
yeah, these girls look nice. Let's go to Australia.
I'll try half a season down there.
Not
and,
far from the Gold Coast.
and, you know, but as I said, the most naturally gifted British player of all time.
Yeah.
Ballon d'Or winner in '68 at the age of 22. Obviously a European Cup winner as well.
Yeah. One of those
No,
players.
no surprise there.
One of those players you think of that one of the greatest players that didn't play in a World Cup.
That's right, yeah. Unfortunately, from Northern Ireland, so didn't get to grace the biggest stage. But Pele was one of his biggest fans, and Pele actually thought Best was the best player on the planet, and that he wasn't, and that George Best was.
Well, they both played in the US, and they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that was at the back end of his career. But,
And by the way, I was right. Cavani, he's number 7 for Man United now.
Well,
Gotcha.
not that number 7.
he knew that already. He just wanted to
The-
prove, he wanted to be able to say that he was right on the podcast.
The other number 7 and Memphis Depay as well didn't do well.
Memphis, easily forgotten. But you talk about the great quotes, and I did pick one out, I must admit, that he came out with over the years. And my favourite one was, I spent a lot of money on booze, birds and fast cars, and the rest I squandered. So
I like the one of if I could score. Was it if I could score a goal from driven plus 3 players against Liverpool in the FA Cup or Shake Me's Universe? Luckily, I've done both or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll do
Yeah,
both,
yeah,
and I've
yeah.
done both. And so
And he would, and that was his life. He was the original football rock star of British football. Do you know what I mean? So.
there's a name that I want to drop in because in one of the last episodes when we were talking about
I was gonna bring this up,
comparisons, I've named him as the best English midfielder of all time, and that's Paul Scholes.
I was kind of disappointed that you had no room for Scholes there, but
No,
I understand. I understand.
He's scribbled here at the
It's
top of
definitely
my notes.
a notable mention, I believe. You'd have.
Probably first play off the bench, maybe.
And he is on my bench, but unfortunately, as I said, even by extending my midfield to 5 across it, I just could not find a spot for him.
Well, you've got Brian Robson as well. From what I've read,
It's got
You
it all
go
this-
to the other top corner of my notes.
from what I've read, like his leadership skills was just out
Incredible,
of this world.
and the ultimate warrior, Brian Robson. He was my favourite player as a kid growing up. He was absolute midfield general. Would just throw his body into anything, and unfortunately, he wasn't blessed with a good enough team around him to give him the trophies that he, in his career, deserved. You know, played 90 odd times for England and captained in about 70 of those 90. The absolute original midfield general. But unfortunately, through the early 80s, through the whole 80s that he played for United, never quite had the team around him to give him the notoriety that he probably deserved.
Can you give us 20 seconds on Nobby Styles?
Yeah, I can. Yes. So from the same era as Best and Charlton and Law,
There you go. Okay.
Bobby Styles.
So Nobby Styles, I think, has played every minute in the '66 World Cup.
That's right. So defensive midfielder
You
again.
love that World Cup, your favourite.
You know, again about 5 foot, 5'1" or something like that. Tiny guy, but very just like a little dog at your heels. Snapping at your heels, just a little workhorse. Never got the claim to fame that he deserved, but did a lot of that ugly, horrible work in midfield that nobody else wants to do.
I called Scholes the best English midfielder of all time, according to me. This next player, to me, is one of the most overrated players of all time. How close was David Beckham to making your list?
No, he wasn't. I had 3 midfielders that I felt were unlucky. Scholes, Brian Robson and Roy Keane was the other one that I felt was unlucky not to get in. But given Best and Ronaldo, who played in a similar position to Beckham, I just thought that those two were clearly ahead.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
in
fair.
the
I'd
pecking
pay
order.
that.
Not that, no disrespect to Beckham, he was a great servant for United and did some wonderful things for the club and won a heap of trophies. So stats wise, he would have been in consideration, but just given the competition down the right hand side of the park that he has to face in the United's all-time 11, he didn't even make my
Nah,
thinking.
he
I think as well, Beckham was lucky to be part of the most successful era at United.
That's right.
And it was more about the team around him rather than his own individual ability that would have propelled him into something like
Look,
this.
Beckham is dead ball specialist. He can cross a ball, and he's lucky enough to have a great marketing behind him with posh spice, with his looks, with his branding, and that made him a complete sort of business.
Yeah, it also got him out of United though.
That's what I'm saying. He went to
Like,
Real.
wherever he went, he was just.
He went to Milan. He went to LA.
It got him kicked out of United, I should say. No pun intended.
You talk about business. You talk about United sold him to Madrid for £15 million.
Yeah.
Madrid had made the 15 million in 2 days.
Yeah.
With the shirt
In
sales.
shirt sales with Beckham on the back.
Why so cheap?
Paid for his transfer.
Ferguson didn't want him.
Paid for his transfer within 2 days.
Was this after the incident with the boot?
Yeah, this was after the...
Well, there were several incidents. Boots is probably the most famous one, but there were several incidents, and they just couldn't see eye to eye any longer. And Fergie will never be told by anybody.
Yeah.
It's his team, and he'll do it his way. And it doesn't matter what your name is. If you don't toe that line, there's the door. And it was the same going back to Jaap Stam. Ferguson's admitted since that Stam was the biggest mistake he ever made.
Yes, I read that.
And when Stam left, it was a whole lot more hurting for me than it was when Beckham left Man United, because that's the impact that I thought both of those players had. Stam was like, oh my God, how are we ever going to replace this guy?
Yeah.
Whereas Beckham, I just thought,
Interesting considering the fact that Beckham is a youth product of Man United.
Yeah, but at the same time, I read Ferguson mentioning a lot about Beckham, and he spoke about he believes that when Beckham got married, that whole fame thing took his mind away from football, and he wasn't there. So and Ferguson doesn't put up with that sort of shit. So
and of course, when Giggs came onto the scene, everyone thought that Giggs was going to be the new George Best. But was Giggs going to go down the same path as George Best, with the girls, with the booze? And he was on the party scene in the early 90s. Manchester was like the centre of the rave capital of the world, you know what I mean? When he was just coming into the team, and he was spotted out drinking here, there and everywhere, and they thought, oh God, he might have the same talent as George Best, but is he going to follow the same path? And then Fergie dragged him into line, and he followed the Fergie route, and obviously had the career that he did. But Beckham would never quite do that. He'd agree, but 2 weeks later he'd be paparazzi and he's at a party down in London or something
Commercial
like that. Exactly.
he got caught up in that lifestyle there, but along came. I mean, financially, it was obviously a smart decision for him because of what he's done. Yeah. Footballing wise, in terms of career footballing, okay, he's played at the biggest clubs in the world. I mean, he's played at Madrid, he's played at United, he's played at Milan, he's played at PSG.
And he's a fine player, Beckham. Fine player, but just not a great player.
Yeah. When you consider the players that you've mentioned,
Yes.
On that note, your forwards.
Okay. So God.
It's got different. That's a whole.
God, a.k.a.
There's only one God. You're talking about the king.
A.k.a.
You're talking about the king.
Eric Cantona.
That's the king.
Oh man,
Okay. So here's my... Now, this guy used to play 7. Number 7 on his back.
Yes.
He'd play as your 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, so never an out-and-out centre forward, never a 9, but he'd be your 10 behind a 9. But again, similar to Ronaldo, he's my Roma. I don't care. You haven't got to mark anybody. Don't worry about tracking back. I just want you to influence the game.
What a coach.
In that final third.
The thing with Cantona is not only what he brought to United on the field, but the influence he had to United off the field.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, you said it off the field. He just put Man United on the map, I think, around the world. A lot of people started getting Cantona jerseys, number 7 on the back. Yeah, I first recall Man United, and he was one of the first players I remembered from that.
But his
time.
influence on the class of 92,
Crazy.
the kids.
Yeah.
He signed for United from Leeds in 92.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would have
And
been
he came with this, again, 1.2 million, so an absolute steal from Leeds. Okay, and the Leeds fans all went crazy. What are you letting him go for? But apparently he was bad in the dressing room, so they wanted just to get rid of him. So again, Fergie, brilliant business, 1.2 million.
There is a Leeds-Manchester rivalry, isn't there?
Of course,
yeah.
they hate each
It's
other.
it's the War of the Roses.
Yeah.
Lancashire versus Yorkshire, goes back to centuries. So again, two of our most bitter rivals, Manchester United and Leeds. So he came in 92, but apparently he was like a fantastic trainer. And so these young kids were coming through, the Scholes and the Beckhams and whatever. And for all the things that they said about Cantona, apparently he was a magnificent trainer, and he set the example at training for this class of '92. And they really obviously looked up to Cantona, and he inspired them through the early part of their careers. So you're right, not just what he did on the pitch, but he was a very talismanic figure off it.
Yeah,
I think the combination, of Fergie and Cantona started to produce that international brand for United.
Yeah.
I speak to Aussie fans who became United fans because of Cantona.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, Bobby Charlton introduced me to Man United, but it was Cantona who made me like watching United or supporting United, in those formative years.
Sorry, so just to repeat.
Oh, fuck off.
When you were a United fan, yeah?
Fucking, I said in those formative years, so obviously I didn't understand shit. I knew nothing about football. I just had to watch.
I can't understand what it's like just to be able to flip clubs. It's something I've never done, so I'm finding it difficult to understand how that can ever happen.
Be a hero.
I never knew this.
No.
Everybody wants to be a hero.
No.
I didn't tell you guys this story for ages. I thought I'll save it one day when it was relevant, and I thought today would be the most relevant time to bring it up.
Do you want me to give you that Chelsea jersey just in case in the future?
There is a photo of me actually wearing a Chelsea jersey.
Oh my God, it gets worse.
If you recall, Johnny, this was at a mate of ours' house. We lost a bet. We were watching a game.
That's a different story.
Hey, I lost a bet and I had to wear a jersey if we lost. So fuck, obviously you're not.
I wore an Everton jersey for losing a bet as well. Losing a bet's a different story.
Okay, well, yeah, I lost a bet.
Now, supporting different teams.
No.
That's a different
What's
thing.
next? Tottenham Hotspur nation?
Please, fuck, so it's been
obviously
obviously he's just a stat man.
He had a magnificent aura about him, Cantona. You knew when you were in the presence.
That collar was up.
The collar up.
Yeah, the arrogance.
On the back of his
That
shoe,
goal
the
against
arrogance.
Sunderland, I think.
Yeah, when he chipped it in, and it was like they'd already won the game like 5-0 or something, but he dinked it.
And he just
From
looked
about
around.
20 years, and then he just the chest would come out. And even the players didn't go up and jump all over him like when they used to do when they celebrate goals. Everyone would just stand off him and just let him like a peacock.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a peacock.
Just to finish on Cantona, the Nike ad in the cage football.
I love that.
Au revoir.
Now he's very erratic, and people look at him and laugh. But I don't know. There's something about him that's still.
Oh, that speech he gave at the UEFA,
There's
the
still
Euro
something about
Awards.
him that I like. I guess I'm very nostalgic when it comes to this sort of stuff. But
And then
I loved Cantona.
We forgot to mention as well the all infamous or famous incident.
Kung Fu kick.
Kung Fu kick.
The kick. Yeah, unfortunately.
So January '95, banned for 8 months, but came back. His comeback game was against those dirty Scousers from Liverpool. And he scored the winning goal, scored the penalty, the winning game in his comeback game, and just you couldn't script these things.
Where did he go after United?
Well, he retired.
Okay.
He retired at still in his 20s, in his late 20s, retired from football.
After-
Just decided that, and I think Fergie knew that when he signed him, it was never going to be a
long term,
an 8, 10, 12 year relationship. It was just going to be, we're just going to have a lot of fun for 5 years or whatever it was. It ended up being 5 years.
But the impact he had was crazy.
And we're just going to get everything out of him while we can. And because we know that one day he's just going to turn around and just walk away, and that's exactly what he did.
And I remember as well, like after that incident, he gave a press conference, like a 10-second press conference.
That's right. He made a statement.
It made like an analogy about seagulls or something.
Seagulls,
yeah,
the
and
trawler.
He just walked out.
He just walked out. When the trawler drops sardines into the ocean, the seagulls will come, or
and then
something
he just leaves.
Yeah, and then he got up and walked out. Yeah, and these journalists have been waiting there for about 3 hours, and he came and just said that. And then
What a legend!
He didn't care.
All right, so who's up front with him?
Well, look, again, a lot of competition for the number 9 jersey, but for me, the greatest natural finisher I ever saw in a United jersey was Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Wow.
Wow. I actually hate Van Nistelrooy.
Oh, I love the
with
guy.
a passion.
I
And
love
I'm a Dutch
Scored
fan.
one of my favourite goals against Arsenal as well.
Of course he did.
Actually, when he
It wasn't the penalty, was? Oh,
No,
sorry,
no,
he missed that one.
The one where you couldn't break. That's when we went on and continued our 49 and
And
That's right.
Martin
Yeah,
Keown
yeah,
just
that's
jumps in his face.
yeah.
smack him on the back of the head. What a game!
No, an absolute the purest natural goal scorer that I saw wear the 9 jersey for United. Only 5 seasons, but 150 goals in 5 seasons. 38 goals in 47 games in Europe for United as well.
Out of those goals, what percentage would you say were tap-ins? 90?
But
80.
we spoke about this. Tap-ins is also a great positioning.
Exactly.
No, yeah,
It's reading the game,
to an extent. Yes,
anticipation.
I agree to an extent, but at the same time, as I mentioned to you the other day, I feel like it's like the FIFA cheat where you're playing FIFA and you square it back, you cut it back just so the player can tap in the easiest goal. It's like a glitch. I understand the positioning is important. With all due respect, I get that, but at the same time, I feel like the team around him, they're on platters. The goals are on platters. Yes, his positioning had to be good at times.
But he went to Real Madrid and scored a lot of goals.
Well, they won the top
Look
scorer,
who he
won
was
his first
playing
year.
with.
Won the league for us. That's what I'm saying.
Who was around him?
Feels like
But he just didn't miss. You gave him the ball inside the 18
Yeah,
yard
that's
box,
true. He
and
didn't
he
miss.
just didn't miss.
But he scored some crackers
You
outside
don't
the box
see
too.
you
I remember.
don't see the highlight reels of it. You know, he's hit the bar, or he's hit the post, or he's gone 10 rows up.
Another one I
He
want to say
just
thanks for.
scored.
So if you had at their peak both Van Nistelrooy and Rooney, you'll go Rude.
I'd choose Van Nistelrooy every time. Yeah.
Different players, I think. Rooney's a little deeper than
But
Van Nistelrooy's an out and out.
correct me if
box
I'm
scorer.
wrong. Is Van Nistelrooy the highest goal scorer in Man United's history? Is that
Rooney's
is
the
that
highest.
Rooney?
Rooney's the highest goal scorer
Yeah.
in United's history. Absolutely. Look, there plethora of strikers. Obviously, they've had over the years. Dennis Law would feel unlucky that he didn't get in. He was part of the, that trilogy, Holy Trinity that I spoke about before. The other two made it in. He didn't. Rooney, obviously being the all-time goal scoring records, would have felt unlucky. They had some great pairings over the years. Obviously York and Cole and
Yeah.
Sheringham and Solskjaer and these pairings. But as an out-and-out 9, I never saw a classier finisher. Or I wouldn't put my money. I'd put my house on Van Nistelrooy over anybody else from 12 yards.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. I'll give you
One of
that.
my favourite strikers. Yeah.
Did Mark Hughes come in the conversation at all?
Again, very different 9. A real back to goal. You'll ping it up to him and he'll get it on his chest and nobody will be able to get through him. Real strong player. Scored some magnificent goals. One of my favourites growing up as a kid. Didn't make the short list, but an absolute favourite of mine through my childhood, Mark Hughes, absolutely.
That's the one of the players you're talking about that you had a favourite but didn't make the list.
Didn't make the list, yeah. Roy Keane was the other one. Roy Keane was one of my favourite all-time players of any nationality or any era, and yet I couldn't get him into the midfield.
All right. Before we go onto the bench, I'm going to ask you for a goalkeeper on the bench and about 5 players maybe.
I think that spoke for itself, what he mentioned before.
Yeah. So before we go into that, let's recap the team. We've got Schmeichel in goals. The 3 backs, you got Neville, Stam,
Tony Dunn.
and Tony Dunn.
You're going to remember him by the end of the night. He will remember his name by the end of the night.
Edwards in the middle, Charlton, Ronaldo.
Yes.
Is your 3 out wide. You got Best,
Best on the right, Giggs down the left.
Giggs, and up front you got Cantona.
Cantona playing
then
just
it's
in behind. Rude.
It's a good team.
Strong team.
That's a good team.
Yeah, it is.
Van der Sar, goalkeeper bench.
Actually not.
Oh.
Alex Stepney, the 68 European Cup winning keeper, England goalkeeper, made the bench. It was between Stepney and Van der Sar for the second slot, and I gave it to Stepney. Again, just on longevity, Van der Sar, not too many years at the club. Brilliant work that he did while he was there, but Stepney was one of the greats that came along before Schmeichel.
Which defenders do you have on the bench?
Steve Bruce would be the central defender,
Yep.
and I've got Dennis Irwin that would cover either side
Can't argue there.
of
No,
the fullbacks.
definitely not.
Yeah.
So there's my 2 defenders.
Scholes on the bench.
Scholes is on the bench with Roy Keane, and I put Brian Robson on there as well. I'm having an extended bench. I'm taking the luxury.
It's
co-
COVID.
it's COVID.
It's COVID rules, they can-
So, right, yeah,
more than
Robson, Keane, Scholes, pretty clear as my sort of bench midfielders, and then Rooney and Dennis Law were my replacement strikers. If
Strong
he did.
team.
Yeah, very strong.
I've got to say, out of those, the standouts for me, personal favourite, obviously not a United fan, but Roy Keane. He was one of those players that you'd love to hate, but you'd love to have on your team,
That's right.
no matter what club you supported.
And he
was
could
just-
drag United through when they were playing
no matter
playing
what.
shit or getting beaten.
Yeah.
They
And-
miss that
and-
now, man.
And he would just grab hold of the team and he would drag them back into the contest. 99 semi-final against Juventus when he was suspended and he knew he couldn't play in the
That
final.
header he scored,
And yet
yeah.
he still dragged the team to the
All right.
final,
Remember
even
that.
knowing that as the captain he wouldn't be there to lead them in the final.
I'm going to ask the most obvious question of all time here. Who's the coach?
Well, the assistant manager, the number 2,
Carlos Queiroz.
is Sir Alex Ferguson.
You put Busby in front of him.
Busby is the manager.
Wow.
Sir Alex
Matt
Ferguson
Busby.
is the assistant manager.
Wow.
Like I knew Busby. I thought Busby was going to be second, a clear second, but I thought Fergie will be your number
So
one.
Matt Busby, also 26 years as the manager of Man United.
When we spoke about, I think it was the Maradona birthday episode, and we say what other player had such an impact on a club, the way Maradona did in Napoli, and when we touched on Man United, we said no player had that impact, but Ferguson did.
Yeah.
That Ferguson was a critical figure over all those years for United, and I thought Fergie would be your coach.
We compared Ferguson's impact on United similar to Maradona's impact
On
at
Napoli.
Napoli. That's what we. That's
And
what
you're
we
saying
did. That's how
Busby.
big it was.
You're saying Busby will get a gig in front
Busby
of
gets
him.
it ahead of Ferguson by a short head just because he lost pretty much an entire team. They just qualified for the European Cup semi-final when the Munich air crash happened. He lost the entire team. Nearly died himself.
Yeah.
Had to get out of bed, go back to Manchester, rebuild the team from scratch, and within 10 years led them to a European Cup.
It's an amazing achievement. When you think about it, it's an amazing achievement. So.
And for that, I just think that's what gives him. He won 13 trophies in his 26 years as a manager, but to be able to, because he didn't even want to ever coach again. He was lying in his hospital bed in Munich, and he decided that he'd lost all of his team. They were all kids. They were all 20, 21-year-old kids. Okay,
Yeah.
and they're Busby babes. They were going to be the greatest team in the world, and he's just lost half of them in a plane crash. So then he has to go back and start from scratch. And when they started playing again, only 2 players from that squad played, because even the ones that survived were injured that badly that they couldn't even carry on their careers. So he had to start from absolute scratch. And
So
then
Charlton was very lucky.
he was extremely lucky.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got to give him something. He knows how to frame a response to convince you as to why he made that choice. I'll give you that. Because for one moment I'm like, please tell me how you're going to fucking justify this. But I've got to say, you
I mean, when you put it that way, it's
Well, I thought,
that's pretty impressive.
I thought I was asking a stupid question, so it's a very obvious question. Here you go, and then you threw it.
And that's why I announced him as my assistant manager first,
Yeah.
because it was the last thing you were going to expect.
Last thing before we go,
Sure.
captain.
Captain, obviously, we've talked about several great leaders within that team, but I ended up going with Gary Neville.
Wow.
Captain for 5 years.
I thought Charlton
Was certainly,
different style.
out of the 11 that I've chosen, had by far the least ability on a football field, but was a great motivator, a great speaker in the dressing room, would drag everybody the same way Roy Keane could do it, would drag the best out of everybody every time he played on the park, led by example with relatively limited abilities. So he's my captain.
Nice.
Very determined.
Fair
though.
choice. Fair
I'll
choice.
I touch on an incident I recall that shows the kind of character he was and how determined he was playing for United and captaining. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they were playing City, and when Schmeichel had been at City, and in the tunnel there was a bit of a meet, and Schmeichel came to shake his hand and he pretended that he didn't even see him. He just kept looking
That's
straight
how
ahead.
much it meant to him.
Didn't even want to touch him. You know, this is a player that you had your best years at United with, pretty much, and had some great achievements. Pretend that he doesn't exist.
Never has there been a more loyal.
Yeah,
Or when he celebrated in front of the Liverpool fans after scoring. Or
The hatred between him and the whole of Liverpool,
Yeah.
basically. I'm amazed he hasn't been knocked off down some alleyway somewhere over the years, because he's very publicly verbal, with his dislike of Liverpool Football Club, and he's had a lot of battles with them over the years, and absolutely just lives and breathes Manchester United.
it shows. It shows in his pundit work with Carragher. He's always taking the piss.
Yeah, they're always
having jabs
going
at
at
him.
each
But
other.
I fucking enjoy. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think it's great to watch.
It is.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight. It's been a bit different, discussing a team that not everyone's familiar with, me for example. Thanks for coming, Neil.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, boys.
I would love to.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I would love to have you back and discuss a bit of how English football was in the 80s and the 90s, growing up there, the hooliganism,
Ooh, some good stories from there, yeah.
what it was like in the Thatcher days.
Let me know when. I'll be here.
Everyone else, thanks for joining in again. As Ak would say,
Guys, hit that like,
Hit that like.
hit that smash button, hit that algorithm.
Give us some feedback.
Please give us some feedback.
subscribe, hit like, comment. Let us know what you think. And as always, guys, check out footballretro.com just in time for Christmas. Anything you need, let us know. Send us a DM and hit the store. See you next time. Bye-bye.